Imagine a time long before the internet, before the vast libraries of the modern world, when knowledge was a precious commodity, carefully preserved and guarded. In the heart of the ancient world, one city stood as the beacon of learning and intellectual pursuit, Alexandria. It was here, in the bustling Mediterranean metropolis, that all human knowledge was said to converge, creating a legendary institution that captured the imagination of scholars, philosophers, and kings for centuries. This institution was none other than the Library of Alexandria, a symbol of intellectual greatness, a dream of boundless knowledge. At its peak, the Library of Alexandria was not just a building filled with scrolls and papyri. It was a sanctuary of the mind, a place where the brightest minds of the ancient world gathered to share, debate, and expand their understanding of the universe. Scholars like Euclid, Archimedes, and Eratosthenes roamed its halls, pushing the boundaries of mathematics, science, and philosophy. The library housed the greatest works of antiquity, from the writings of Homer to the teachings of the great Egyptian priests. The Ptolemies, rulers of Egypt, spared no expense in gathering the most extensive collection of knowledge known to humanity, making Alexandria the intellectual capital of the ancient world. However, the story of the Library of Alexandria is not solely one of triumph and grandeur. It is also a tragic tale of loss, of knowledge that was lost to the ravages of time, fire, and war. Despite its importance and influence, the library's fate was sealed in a series of events that would lead to its eventual destruction. The library's demise, much like the city itself, has become an enduring symbol of how fragile human knowledge can be and how easily the hard-earned wisdom of centuries can be erased in the blink of an eye. The loss of the Library of Alexandria has haunted the minds of historians, scholars, and thinkers for millennia. What was once the greatest repository of human knowledge in the ancient world was reduced to ashes, and with it, countless irreplaceable texts, manuscripts, and discoveries. But while the physical library may be gone, its legacy endures in the hearts of those who seek to understand the world and the wisdom of the past. The idea of the library, of a space dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, has inspired generations of thinkers, institutions, and modern libraries. It serves as a reminder of the boundless potential of human intellect, as well as a cautionary tale about the fragility of our intellectual heritage. Today, when we talk about the Library of Alexandria, we are not just speaking of a place in history. We are speaking of an ideal, a vision of human curiosity and intellectual progress. It symbolizes the heights to which humanity can soar when we dedicate ourselves to the pursuit of knowledge, but it also serves as a stark reminder that such greatness can be lost forever if we fail to protect it. The library's story is one of both grandeur and tragedy, a narrative that resonates deeply with our modern struggles to preserve and protect the knowledge we continue to accumulate. As we explore the history of the Library of Alexandria, we will delve into its founding, its golden age, and its eventual destruction. We will uncover the legends and mysteries surrounding its creation and examine the people who made it possible. From the ambitious Ptolemies to the scholars who shaped its collection, each piece of this puzzle is vital to understanding why this institution remains one of the most famous and enigmatic legacies of the ancient world. But beyond its historical significance, the story of the Library of Alexandria holds lessons for us today. It asks us to reflect on our own relationship with knowledge and the importance of safeguarding it for future generations. In an age where information is abundant, the story of Alexandria serves as a poignant reminder that knowledge is not only power, it is also fragile and precious. As we look back on the legacy of the Library of Alexandria, we are called to ensure that the treasures of our own time are preserved, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that will follow. In the following journey, we will uncover the secrets of this ancient institution, exploring its origins, its rise to intellectual prominence, and its tragic fall. Together, we will rediscover the essence of what made the Library of Alexandria more than just a collection of books. We will explore how it became a symbol of human aspiration and a beacon of the potential we all share in our pursuit of knowledge. Through this story, we will be reminded that while the library may have burned, the flame of curiosity and discovery continues to burn brightly within us all. The city of Alexandria, founded by the legendary conqueror Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, was initially envisioned as a thriving center of trade and culture. However, it was not until the rise of the Ptolemaic dynasty, particularly under the rule of Ptolemy I and Ptolemy II, that Alexandria would evolve into something even grander, the intellectual capital of the ancient world. The Ptolemies, with their ambition and vision, set the stage for the creation of what would become one of the most influential and unprecedented knowledge projects in history, the Library of Alexandria. The Ptolemaic kings, especially Ptolemy I Soter, who ruled from 323 BCE to 283 BCE, understood the importance of knowledge in shaping a great civilization. As the first ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty, Ptolemy I laid the groundwork for Alexandria's future as a hub of intellectual activity. His rule saw the establishment of a city where scholars, philosophers, and scientists from all corners of the ancient world could come together. His successor, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, further nurtured this vision, transforming Alexandria into a city that not only wielded political power, but also intellectual might. Under the Ptolemies, Alexandria became the prime center of learning, attracting scholars from across the Greek world. It was here that the greatest minds of the era would gather, sharing ideas and building upon each other's work. The Ptolemies did not just establish the library for the sake of their own wealth or power. They saw it as a way to immortalize Greek and Egyptian knowledge, creating a universal repository that would preserve and expand humanity's understanding of the world. But it was not just the Ptolemies who had a hand in the creation of this monumental library. A key figure in the library's formation was Demetrius of Phaleron, an Athenian scholar and statesman who became one of the first librarians of the library. Demetrius is often credited with conceptualizing and organizing the idea of gathering knowledge from around the known world into one central location. His vision was simple, yet revolutionary, to create a space where the entire world's knowledge could be collected, archived, and expanded upon. Demetrius' efforts were not just about collecting books. It was about creating a living, breathing institution where scholars could come together and share ideas. In many ways, he envisioned the library as more than just a collection of scrolls and manuscripts. It was a center for intellectual collaboration and innovation. Under his guidance, the library sought to bring together the greatest works of literature, science, and philosophy from around the world, ensuring that all knowledge was preserved for future generations. The idea of creating such a monumental library may seem almost impossible today. In a world that is increasingly driven by digital technology, where we can access an almost infinite wealth of knowledge at the click of a button, it is hard to imagine a time when the very concept of a universal library was a bold, groundbreaking idea. We live in an age where information is abundant and accessible, a time when we take for granted the ease with which we can learn, share, and exchange knowledge. However, during the time of the Ptolemies, such an idea would have seemed almost unattainable. There was no internet, no printing press, and no centralized archives of knowledge. The only way to gather the world's knowledge was through the painstaking process of collecting written scrolls from every corner of the known world. Imagine a time when books were not readily available. In fact, the idea of a universal library meant that the Ptolemies had to send emissaries to every known civilization, from Greece to Egypt, from the far reaches of Babylon to the heart of Persia, to collect the texts and scrolls that would form the library's vast collection. Each book was valuable, not only as a text, but as a link to the broader intellectual heritage of the time. The Ptolemies spared no expense in acquiring these books, and the library's collection grew to include works on history, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and more. The task of building such an extensive library was no small feat. Books were not cheap to produce. They had to be painstakingly copied by hand. And once the Ptolemies managed to collect these scrolls, they had to find a way to organize them. This was where Demetrius's vision truly came to life. He understood that the library needed more than just a vast collection. It needed a system of organization that could allow scholars to easily find, study, and build upon each other's work. This would be one of the most ambitious undertakings of the ancient world. And yet, it was done without the technological advancements we take for granted. Today, in many ways, the creation of the Library of Alexandria can be seen as a precursor to the modern library system. The concept of categorizing knowledge, of organizing texts by subject and genre, was revolutionary for its time. Demetrius and the Ptolemies understood that knowledge was a living thing that needed to be nurtured, organized, and protected. This was not just a repository of knowledge. It was a dynamic institution designed to foster new ideas and discoveries. What makes the story of the Library of Alexandria even more remarkable is how the Ptolemies' vision continues to resonate with us today. We may have digital libraries and vast archives of knowledge at our fingertips, but the fundamental goal of gathering and sharing human knowledge remains the same. The Library of Alexandria was a monument to human ambition and curiosity, a place where scholars could come together to push the boundaries of human understanding. In many ways, it reflects our modern-day pursuit of knowledge, whether through the internet, academic institutions, or our quest to solve the world's most pressing problems. But beyond the grandeur of the library's creation, what truly makes it inspiring is the idea that, even without the technology we have today, the Ptolemies and Demetrius of Phaleron set the stage for a new kind of intellectual exchange, one that would change the course of human history. Their vision was not just about preserving knowledge, but about advancing it, encouraging scholars to build upon the work of their predecessors. The concept of the Library of Alexandria serves as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is a timeless endeavor. Whether we are building libraries, sharing ideas online, or collaborating across disciplines, the goal remains the same: to expand our understanding of the world and ensure that knowledge is preserved for future generations. The vision of the Ptolemies and Demetrius, who saw Alexandria not just as a city of wealth and power, but as a city of knowledge and enlightenment, continues to inspire those who seek to understand the world and shape the future. In this way, the legacy of the Library of Alexandria lives on, not just in the texts and scrolls it once housed, but in the continued pursuit of knowledge that transcends time and place. It stands as a testament to human ambition, the power of intellect, and the enduring need to share and preserve the wisdom of the past. The Ptolemies were relentless in their quest to fill the Library of Alexandria with knowledge from every corner of the known world. In their pursuit of intellectual greatness, no text was too obscure, and no manuscript was too valuable to add to their ever-expanding collection. Ancient accounts suggest that the Ptolemies adopted a variety of methods to acquire books and scrolls, some of which were as ambitious as they were controversial. Their strategy was simple yet aggressive. If a book or manuscript was found, it was either bought or copied. If it was located in a foreign land, the Ptolemies sent agents to procure it by any means necessary, including paying exorbitant sums of money and even taking original copies from foreign lands and replacing them with high-quality copies made in Alexandria. The royal decree was clear. Any book or scroll found within the boundaries of the empire could be subject to being copied and added to the library's holdings. This was not just a matter of collecting books. It was about gathering knowledge and ensuring that Alexandria was the intellectual hub of the ancient world. The Ptolemies understood that knowledge was power, and they would stop at nothing to secure it. They even established an organized system where royal agents scoured the book markets of major cities like Athens and Rhodes, seeking out important works that could contribute to the library's collection. Books and scrolls were brought back to Alexandria, where they were copied by scribes and added to the shelves. This method of acquisition, while highly effective, was not without its ethical concerns. Many saw it as a form of intellectual theft, a kind of cultural appropriation, where the Ptolemies took ownership of works that rightfully belonged to other cultures. It is said that some of the most well-known Greek and Roman works, including Homer's epics, were taken and kept in Alexandria, with only copies sent back to their original homes. This aggressive acquisition policy might seem unethical to us today, but in the context of the ancient world, it was simply a means of securing the wealth of knowledge that the Ptolemies believed was critical to their power and prestige. In a way, the Ptolemies' pursuit of knowledge can be seen as a reflection of how we view information in the modern world. In the digital age, access to information is often considered a form of power. We live in an era where the internet has democratized access to knowledge, yet we are still constantly grappling with the question of who owns information and how it is disseminated. Just as the Ptolemies sought to consolidate and control the intellectual resources of the ancient world, modern entities, be they governments, corporations, or even individual users, vie for control over the flow of information. The parallels between the ancient world's acquisition methods and our modern digital landscape are striking. Today, we see countries, companies, and individuals acquiring data at an unprecedented rate, often with little regard for the privacy or ethical considerations that surround it. The internet has become the new battleground for knowledge, and those who control access to it hold immense power. The Ptolemies' efforts to acquire knowledge also shed light on how deeply entrenched the idea of intellectual dominance was in their worldview. For them, controlling knowledge meant controlling the future. By amassing the most extensive collection of texts and manuscripts, they positioned Alexandria as the undisputed leader in intellectual achievement. It was not enough to simply have scholars and philosophers in their court. The Ptolemies needed to make sure that all knowledge, from the greatest scientific discoveries to the most profound philosophical treatises, was stored in their library. Knowledge was seen as a currency, an asset that could elevate their status and secure their place in history. Just as a modern-day tech giant might monopolize digital platforms to control access to information, the Ptolemies sought to monopolize human knowledge to establish their dominance in the ancient world. However, this strategy was not without its risks. The very nature of their acquisition methods created tension with other cultures and civilizations. The aggressive nature of their book acquisitions did not always sit well with the countries and scholars from whom they sought to acquire texts. While the Ptolemies were willing to pay large sums of money for rare manuscripts, their method of taking original copies and leaving behind only copies for the original owners led to resentment. Imagine how an ancient scholar in Athens would feel if they learned that the Ptolemies had sent agents to collect their works, made high-quality copies, and then kept the originals for themselves. The ethical implications of such actions could easily lead to diplomatic tensions and rivalries, and in some cases, outright condemnation. Yet the Ptolemies seem to view these actions as necessary steps to secure Alexandria's position as the intellectual capital of the world. In their eyes, the pursuit of knowledge justified their methods, no matter how controversial they might seem. In the grand scheme of things, however, the Ptolemies' aggressive acquisition tactics contributed to the Library of Alexandria's unrivaled position in the ancient world. At its height, the library contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls, representing the full breadth of human knowledge as it was understood at the time. It was the perfect environment for scholars, where the exchange of ideas could flourish and where the greatest intellectual minds could meet and collaborate. The library itself was not just a physical collection of texts, it was a thriving intellectual community, a place where knowledge was constantly evolving and being refined. The Ptolemies' pursuit of knowledge may seem cutthroat, but it speaks to a fundamental truth. The hunger for knowledge has always been a driving force in human history. Just as the Ptolemies understood the value of information in solidifying their power, we today must recognize that access to knowledge is an invaluable resource. Whether in ancient Alexandria or in our digital age, knowledge is currency, and those who control it hold significant influence. In many ways, the Library of Alexandria, with its daring acquisitions and vast collection, serves as a precursor to the modern information age. A reminder that the thirst for knowledge is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. As we continue to navigate the digital age, we must be mindful of the lessons learned from the Library of Alexandria. While the Ptolemies may have been willing to take extreme measures to secure knowledge, we must ask ourselves how we can preserve and protect the information we have today. In an age where data is constantly being acquired, stored, and shared, the ethical implications of such actions are more important than ever. The Ptolemies' aggressive tactics in securing knowledge may have been a product of their time, but it serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of respecting intellectual property and the ownership of knowledge in the modern world. In our quest for information, we must remember that knowledge is not just a tool for power. It is a shared resource that belongs to everyone, and it is our responsibility to safeguard it for future generations. The Library of Alexandria was far more than just a place where scrolls and manuscripts were stored. It was a dynamic center of intellectual activity, a breeding ground for new ideas, innovations, and groundbreaking theories that would shape the course of human knowledge. It was here in this monumental institution that some of the greatest minds of the ancient world came together to push the boundaries of what was known. Scholars like Eratosthenes and Euclid worked within the library's walls, contributing to the development of mathematics, science, and philosophy in ways that still impact our understanding of the world today. Eratosthenes, one of the most prominent scholars to have worked at the Library of Alexandria, made significant contributions to geography and mathematics. He is best known for calculating the circumference of the Earth, a feat that required not only a deep understanding of mathematics, but also an intuitive grasp of the scientific method. Eratosthenes used simple measurements and clever reasoning to estimate the Earth's size with remarkable accuracy. By measuring the angle of the sun's rays at different locations, he was able to calculate the distance between them, and from that, determine the Earth's circumference. At the time, this was an astonishing achievement, one that laid the foundation for centuries of scientific exploration. Equally influential was Euclid, the great mathematician whose work in geometry became the standard for over 2,000 years. Euclid's Elements, a comprehensive compilation of the knowledge of geometry at the time, not only influenced subsequent generations of mathematicians, but also formed the core of mathematical education for centuries. The Elements organized geometric concepts in a systematic way, offering proofs and theorems that became the foundation of much of modern geometry. Euclid's work transcended his time, providing the logical structure that would shape mathematical thought and reasoning for millennia. The clarity and rigor with which he approached mathematical problems provided a framework that would influence not just mathematics, but also the scientific method itself. But the Library of Alexandria was not just about collecting and preserving knowledge. It was a place where scholars could exchange ideas, challenge one another's work, and refine their theories. This environment of intellectual exchange was essential to the development of many of the great scientific and philosophical advances of the time. The library became a center where ideas could be tested, refined, and expanded upon, creating a feedback loop of intellectual growth that spanned generations. Scholars did not just study the work of those who came before them, they built upon it, creating new theories, methods, and discoveries that pushed the boundaries of what was possible in their respective fields. Real-life examples of how these innovations influenced later generations can be seen in how the scientific method, a process of inquiry and experimentation, revolutionized our understanding of the world. The work done at the Library of Alexandria laid the groundwork for this method by providing scholars with the tools to observe, experiment, and logically deduce conclusions. The library's emphasis on knowledge sharing and intellectual collaboration was integral to the rise of the scientific method, which would later become the cornerstone of modern science. The systematic approach to knowledge that began in Alexandria paved the way for thinkers like Galileo, Newton, and Darwin, who would go on to make monumental contributions to science, building on the foundations laid by scholars such as Eratosthenes and Euclid. The legacy of the Library of Alexandria also extends into the present day. Today, when we look at the achievements of scientists and mathematicians, we are, in many ways, standing on the shoulders of giants like Euclid and Eratosthenes. Their work, which once seemed so revolutionary and groundbreaking, has become the bedrock of our modern understanding of the world. Think about how we now measure the Earth's size, study the stars, and explore the universe around us. All of it is grounded in the work that began in places like the Library of Alexandria. The scientific method, the study of geometry, and the pursuit of knowledge in general owe a great deal to the scholars who first came together in Alexandria. In many ways, the Library of Alexandria served as a prototype for modern academic institutions. It was a place where ideas could be freely exchanged, where the boundaries of knowledge were constantly being pushed, and where collaboration between scholars led to innovation and discovery. The library's vast collection of works from different civilizations and cultures made it a melting pot of ideas, which contributed to the development of a global intellectual tradition. Just as modern universities and research institutions continue to bring together scholars from all over the world to collaborate and innovate, so too did the Library of Alexandria serve as a model for the exchange of knowledge across cultures and disciplines. The work done at the Library of Alexandria also laid the foundation for later advancements in fields such as astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Alexandrian scholars like Hipparchus and Ptolemy made significant contributions to the study of the stars and the development of astronomical models. Their work influenced later astronomers like Copernicus and Kepler, who would go on to challenge the geocentric model of the universe and lay the groundwork for the heliocentric model. In medicine, the library's scholars collected and analyzed medical texts from various cultures, contributing to a more holistic understanding of human health. Philosophers in Alexandria, like the Stoics and the Neoplatonists, would go on to influence later philosophical thought, shaping the intellectual traditions that would eventually lead to the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. While the Library of Alexandria was tragically lost to time, the innovations and discoveries that took place within its walls continue to resonate with us today. The contributions of scholars like Eratosthenes and Euclid have become integral to our modern understanding of science, mathematics, and philosophy. Their groundbreaking work laid the foundations for the advances that followed, creating a ripple effect that continues to shape our world. In many ways, the legacy of the Library of Alexandria serves as a reminder that knowledge is a living, evolving entity. It is something that must be nurtured, shared, and expanded upon by each generation. As we continue to push the boundaries of human knowledge, we honor the legacy of the scholars who first gathered in Alexandria, and we carry forward their vision of a world where the pursuit of knowledge knows no bounds. The Library of Alexandria was not just a place of reading, it was a place of innovation, a space where ideas could flourish and breakthroughs could happen. It was a place where scholars from all walks of life could come together to challenge one another, collaborate, and expand the limits of human understanding. Today we continue to build on that legacy, creating our own libraries of knowledge that push the frontiers of science and philosophy, just as the Alexandrians did thousands of years ago. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria remains one of the greatest tragedies in the history of knowledge. While the exact circumstances of its fall are shrouded in mystery, ancient accounts suggest that a series of fires, including one during Julius Caesar's siege of the city in 48 BCE, played a significant role in its demise. According to these historical sources, the library's collection was destroyed in a manner that can only be described as catastrophic, erasing centuries of accumulated wisdom from every field of study imaginable. However, the true scale and cause of the destruction are still debated, with many historical records offering conflicting details. Ancient writers, including Plutarch and Dio Cassius, describe the fire during Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria as one of the pivotal moments in the library's destruction. It is said that during the siege, a fire broke out in the city, likely as a result of the battle. The flames spread through the docks, and the library, located in the heart of Alexandria near the harbor, was caught in the inferno. According to some accounts, this fire consumed much of the library's holdings, though the full extent of the damage remains uncertain. Some sources suggest that the fire destroyed only the warehouse of books stored near the port, while others claim that the main library building itself was devastated. What we do know is that this event marked the beginning of the library's long decline, as the devastation caused by Caesar's forces was not the only blow the library would suffer. As time went on, other calamities befell the library. There are additional accounts of further fires, political turmoil, and the eventual rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire, which led to a shift in the values and priorities of the society that once revered the library. The destruction was not just physical, it was symbolic. With the loss of so many texts, the intellectual hub that once housed the most comprehensive collection of knowledge in the ancient world was effectively erased from history. This loss was not just a destruction of books. It was the obliteration of entire civilizations' knowledge, including that of the Greeks, Egyptians, Persians, and many others whose works were kept within the library's walls. In this sense, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria is akin to a digital wipe in today's world, a sudden erasure of vast amounts of data and information that can never be recovered. Imagine a world in which all the knowledge we have accumulated over the centuries, from scientific discoveries to literary masterpieces, from philosophical insights to historical records, were to disappear in an instant. The loss of the library, with its hundreds of thousands of scrolls, was not merely a loss of ancient books, but the loss of intellectual heritage itself. It was a tragic moment in history when the collective wisdom of ancient civilizations was lost to the flames, and with it, the ability to build upon that knowledge. For scholars of the time, this destruction must have felt like a devastating blow to human progress. It is difficult to overstate the significance of what was lost. The library was not just a collection of books, it was a symbol of human intellectual achievement, a place where knowledge was preserved, organized, and expanded. It housed works of philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and many other fields, representing the pinnacle of ancient scholarly pursuits. Some of the greatest minds in history, from Euclid to Archimedes, had their works stored and studied there, contributing to advancements that would shape the future. But with the loss of the library came the loss of these contributions, forcing future generations to rebuild knowledge from fragments in surviving copies. Some scholars and thinkers would rebuild upon what remained, but much was lost forever, creating gaps in human history that can never truly be filled. The parallels to the digital age are striking. In today's world, we rely heavily on digital data to store our knowledge and communicate ideas. Information is more accessible than ever, but it is also more vulnerable than ever. The loss of data through cyber attacks, technological failures, or digital censorship could have devastating consequences, much like the loss of the Library of Alexandria in the ancient world. Today we have vast archives of knowledge stored online, in digital libraries, and in the cloud. But how secure are these resources? What would happen if they were suddenly wiped out by a digital catastrophe? The Library of Alexandria's destruction serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of knowledge. Just as we now depend on digital archives to preserve our collective wisdom, the ancient world relied on physical repositories like Alexandria's library. The loss of such a treasure trove of knowledge, whether through fire, war, or neglect, remains a humbling lesson for us. This destruction was not just a physical loss. It was a cultural and intellectual setback that affected not just those living at the time, but also generations that followed. The memory of the Library of Alexandria has persisted for thousands of years, not only as a symbol of intellectual ambition, but also as a cautionary tale. It reminds us of the value of knowledge and the importance of preserving it for future generations. In our modern world, where information is more plentiful than ever, it is easy to take knowledge for granted. Yet, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria teaches us that the wealth of human understanding is always at risk of being lost. The loss of such a monumental collection reminds us that intellectual heritage is fragile and must be protected. This lesson is particularly relevant in the context of today's digital age. Just as the library once housed the greatest works of its time, today's digital platforms store the knowledge and information that drive modern society. We must learn from the past and ensure that our own intellectual and digital legacies are preserved, protected, and passed on to future generations. The Library of Alexandria's destruction is a stark reminder of how easily knowledge can be erased. In our pursuit of progress, we must be vigilant in safeguarding the information that forms the backbone of human achievement. In many ways, the story of the Library of Alexandria's destruction is a tragic one, but it is also a story of resilience. Despite the immense loss, the spirit of the library and the pursuit of knowledge lived on, inspiring future generations of scholars, thinkers, and innovators. The library may have been lost, but its influence can still be felt today in the institutions, libraries, and archives that continue the mission of preserving and expanding human knowledge. As we continue to face the challenges of the digital age, the lessons of Alexandria remain as relevant as ever, urging us to protect the knowledge we have and ensure that it is never lost again. The Library of Alexandria, though lost to history, left an indelible mark on the intellectual landscape of the ancient world, and its enduring influence can still be felt today. While the physical structure may have burned to the ground in a series of tragic events, the ideas, innovations, and scholarly advancements that were born within its walls continue to shape the foundations of modern science, literature, and philosophy. The impact of the library transcends its immediate era and echoes through time, proving that knowledge is a force that survives even the most catastrophic losses. The Ptolemies, rulers of ancient Egypt, founded the Library of Alexandria with the vision of creating an intellectual center that would bring together the greatest minds of their time. In its prime, the library housed countless scrolls, manuscripts, and texts from across the known world, spanning a vast array of subjects, from mathematics and astronomy to philosophy and medicine. Scholars such as Euclid, Archimedes, and Eratosthenes worked within its walls, making groundbreaking contributions to mathematics, science, and philosophy that would lay the groundwork for centuries of intellectual progress. The library was not just a collection of books. It was a dynamic living institution that fostered the exchange of ideas, the testing of theories, and the creation of new knowledge. Despite its destruction, the legacy of the Library of Alexandria continues to be felt in the way modern scholars approach knowledge. The works of those who studied there formed the bedrock of Western thought, shaping not only the intellectual traditions of Greece and Rome, but also those of the Renaissance and Enlightenment periods. The mathematical theories of Euclid, for example, were not just taught in Alexandria, they became the foundation for modern geometry. His work in Elements provided a systematic and logical approach to understanding geometry that would influence countless mathematicians and scientists throughout history. Euclid's method of deduction, based on axioms and proofs, laid the groundwork for the scientific method itself, which would later be refined during the Renaissance and beyond. Eratosthenes, another prominent scholar at the library, revolutionized our understanding of the world by calculating the Earth's circumference. Using simple yet ingenious methods, he measured the angle of the sun's rays at two different locations and, from there, estimated the Earth's size with remarkable accuracy. This feat of mathematical and observational science was a precursor to later discoveries in astronomy and geography. Eratosthenes' work paved the way for future scientists such as Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton, who would build upon his foundational understanding of the Earth's dimensions to explore the cosmos. The Library of Alexandria also played a crucial role in preserving and disseminating the knowledge of earlier civilizations. The Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, and Greeks all contributed to the vast collection of texts that Alexandria housed. These texts were not just copied and stored. They were analyzed, critiqued, and expanded upon by the scholars who worked at the library. This synthesis of knowledge from various cultures laid the groundwork for the development of a more universal understanding of science, mathematics, and philosophy. It was in Alexandria that the intellectual achievements of ancient civilizations were brought together and made accessible to scholars from all over the world. The library's destruction, though tragic, underscored the importance of preserving knowledge for future generations. It is often said that the loss of the Library of Alexandria represents one of the greatest cultural catastrophes in human history. The idea of so much knowledge being lost in a single moment is almost incomprehensible. Thousands of scrolls containing irreplaceable works of literature, philosophy, and science were reduced to ashes, and with them, the intellectual advancements of an entire civilization. But while the library itself was lost, the impact of the scholars who worked there did not vanish. The works that survived, whether through copies made in Alexandria or passed down through other civilizations, became the building blocks for future intellectual revolutions. For centuries after the library's destruction, the ideas that had been nurtured within its walls continued to resonate through Western intellectual traditions. The works of Euclid, Archimedes, and other Alexandrian scholars were passed down through Roman and Byzantine scholars, and their ideas formed the foundation for the Renaissance. During this period, scholars rediscovered many of the lost texts of ancient Greece and Rome, and the intellectual flame that had once burned brightly in Alexandria was rekindled. The Renaissance would not have been possible without the preservation and rediscovery of ancient knowledge, much of which had been preserved through the work of Alexandria's scholars. The Enlightenment, too, owes much of its intellectual heritage to the work that was done at the Library of Alexandria. The movement's emphasis on reason, science, and progress was rooted in the ideas that emerged from the intellectual ferment of the ancient world. Thinkers like René Descartes, Isaac Newton, and Immanuel Kant built upon the foundations laid by Alexandrian scholars in their quest to understand the natural world and human existence. Newton's laws of motion and universal gravitation, for example, were grounded in the scientific principles that had been explored by scholars like Eratosthenes and Archimedes centuries before. In this way, the intellectual heritage of the Library of Alexandria helped shape the modern scientific worldview. The library's destruction, however, also serves as a cautionary tale. It reminds us of the fragility of knowledge and the importance of protecting our intellectual heritage. In an age where information is increasingly digitized and stored in vast online archives, we are reminded by the fall of Alexandria that knowledge can be lost in an instant. Just as the ancient world lost its greatest repository of learning, so too could we lose our own intellectual legacy if we fail to safeguard the knowledge that shapes our world. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria serves as a reminder of the value of preserving information and ensuring that it remains accessible to future generations. This lesson is particularly relevant in our modern age of technology and information. The digital age has made knowledge more accessible than ever before, but it has also made it more vulnerable. Data can be erased with the click of a button, and once dominant platforms can disappear overnight. The digital archives that we rely on to store and disseminate knowledge are not immune to the same forces that led to the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. As we continue to advance in the digital age, it is crucial that we learn from the past and take steps to protect the knowledge that we accumulate. Just as the ancient world was shaped by the work done at the Library of Alexandria, so too will the future be shaped by the knowledge we preserve today. In the end, the destruction of the Library of Alexandria is not just a tragedy for the ancient world. It is a tragedy for all of humanity. The library's legacy, however, continues to inspire us to this day. Its scholars laid the groundwork for modern science, literature, and philosophy, and their work continues to influence our thinking. The library may be gone, but its impact lives on, reminding us of the power of knowledge and the importance of protecting it for future generations. As we continue to build upon the intellectual foundations that were first laid in Alexandria, we must also recognize the fragility of the knowledge we hold. The lessons of the past, embodied in the story of the Library of Alexandria, must guide us as we navigate the challenges of the present and the future. The story of the Library of Alexandria, both its rise to prominence and its tragic destruction, serves as a powerful reminder of the value and fragility of knowledge. The library, once a beacon of intellectual progress, housed the collective wisdom of ancient civilizations and became the heart of learning in the ancient world. It brought together scholars, scientists, and philosophers from diverse cultures, all united by a shared pursuit of understanding. The pursuit of knowledge, after all, is one of humanity's most enduring traits, one that transcends time, geography, and culture. But the library's destruction, whether caused by the flames of war or the passage of time, shows us just how fragile the knowledge we cherish can be, and how quickly it can disappear if not properly safeguarded. The loss of the Library of Alexandria was not just the loss of books. It was the loss of an entire intellectual ecosystem. The scholars who worked there were not just cataloging knowledge. They were advancing it, testing ideas, and building upon the work of their predecessors. The library's collections were not just stored texts. They were living documents, each one a springboard for new thinking and discoveries. The library was a place where the boundaries of what was known were continually pushed. Scholars like Euclid, Eratosthenes, Archimedes, and others revolutionized mathematics, science, and philosophy within its walls. Their contributions laid the foundation for future discoveries and shaped the way we understand the world today. These men, and countless others whose names we may never know, changed the course of intellectual history. And yet, despite their groundbreaking work, much of the knowledge they produced was lost when the library was destroyed. The destruction of the library serves as a cautionary tale about the fragility of knowledge. Knowledge, no matter how important, is always at risk of being lost, whether through natural disasters, war, neglect, or even the passage of time. It is a humbling reminder that, as humans, we are constantly vulnerable to the loss of what we have worked so hard to achieve. Just as the Library of Alexandria was once thought to be indestructible, so too are our modern digital archives, libraries, and databases at risk. We live in an era of unprecedented access to information. The Internet has made knowledge more accessible than ever before, and the wealth of human understanding is at our fingertips. But with this accessibility comes a responsibility to protect and preserve this knowledge for future generations. The lesson from the Library of Alexandria is clear. Knowledge is fragile, and we must protect it. It is not enough to simply collect information. We must ensure that it is stored, organized, and accessible to those who need it, both today and in the future. The library's destruction teaches us that if we fail to safeguard our intellectual heritage, we risk losing it, and with it, the progress that comes from sharing and building upon that knowledge. As we face new challenges in our world, whether in the realm of science, technology, or the humanities, we must not only preserve our knowledge, but actively seek to expand it. The pursuit of knowledge must be seen as an ongoing, ever-expanding journey. The Library of Alexandria was not simply a collection of books. It was a living entity that continually evolved, growing as new discoveries were made and new ideas emerged. The same must be true today. Our pursuit of knowledge should never stagnate, but instead it should be a dynamic, ongoing endeavor. To keep the flame of knowledge alive, we must continue to push the boundaries of what we know, just as the scholars of Alexandria did. We must challenge old ideas and be willing to ask difficult questions. We must remain open to new perspectives, as Alexandria did when it brought together scholars from diverse cultures and backgrounds. Only by continuing to question, learn, and grow can we ensure that the legacy of the Library of Alexandria remains alive in our own time. As we reflect on the legacy of the Library of Alexandria, we must also remember that its destruction, tragic as it was, did not erase its impact. The scholars who worked there did not just contribute to their own time, they laid the groundwork for future generations of thinkers. The ideas that emerged from Alexandria influenced not just the ancient world, but the entire trajectory of Western thought. From the Renaissance to the Enlightenment and beyond, the principles of reason, observation, and critical thinking that were born in Alexandria shaped the way we approach knowledge today. The legacy of Alexandria is still very much alive, and it continues to inspire us to this day. In the modern world, the spirit of the Library of Alexandria lives on in the pursuit of knowledge. Institutions of higher learning, research facilities, and libraries are modern-day counterparts to Alexandria's intellectual hub. Today, we have access to more knowledge than the scholars of ancient Alexandria could ever have dreamed of. And yet, just as in Alexandria, this knowledge must be safeguarded. We must protect our institutions of learning, ensure that information is shared freely and openly, and create environments where new ideas can flourish. Moreover, as we continue to advance in science, technology, and other fields, we must remember the lessons of Alexandria. The library was not just a place for the preservation of knowledge. It was a place of intellectual exchange, collaboration, and innovation. Today, in our increasingly globalized world, we must continue to foster environments that promote collaboration across cultures and disciplines. Just as Alexandria welcomes scholars from all over the world, we must ensure that the pursuit of knowledge is open to all, regardless of nationality, race, or background. Knowledge belongs to humanity as a whole, and it is through the sharing of ideas and perspectives that we can truly advance as a global society. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria also teaches us something about the human spirit. Despite the loss of so much intellectual wealth, the spirit of learning and discovery never died. Even as the physical library burned, the ideas contained within it lived on through the scholars who had studied there and the works that had been preserved. In the centuries following its destruction, the intellectual currents of Alexandria continued to influence the course of history. The Renaissance, with its revival of classical knowledge, was built upon the foundations laid by scholars in Alexandria. The Enlightenment, too, was deeply indebted to the ideas that had been preserved through the works of Alexandria's intellectuals. This resilience of knowledge, even in the face of destruction, is a powerful reminder of the enduring power of human thought. Knowledge cannot be destroyed simply by burning books or erasing records. The ideas that shape the world are far more resilient. They live on in the minds of those who continue to learn, teach, and discover. As long as we continue to value knowledge, to pursue it with curiosity and passion, it will never truly be lost. So, what can we learn from the story of the Library of Alexandria? First and foremost, we learn that knowledge is invaluable and must be preserved. But we also learn that the pursuit of knowledge is not a finite journey. It is an ongoing process, one that requires constant effort, dedication, and curiosity. Just as the scholars of Alexandria continually sought to expand the boundaries of knowledge, we must continue to ask questions, seek new answers, and challenge old assumptions. In doing so, we keep the spirit of the Library of Alexandria alive in our own time. In the end, the story of the Library of Alexandria is not just about the past. It is a story that speaks directly to our present and our future. The library may have been lost, but its legacy endures. The pursuit of knowledge, the sharing of ideas, and the commitment to intellectual progress are ideals that we can carry forward by protecting and preserving our intellectual heritage, by ensuring that knowledge is accessible to all and is constantly expanding. We honor the legacy of the Library of Alexandria. Its flame may have been extinguished in the ancient world, but it continues to burn brightly in our own quest for knowledge and wisdom. Let us keep that flame alive as we strive to build a better, more informed,